This is the ISSP podcast. The International Society for Sports Psychiatry, or ISSP, aims to carry the science and practice of psychiatry to the athletic community. My co-hosts and I are all medical trainees between medical students and resident physicians who plan to specialize in psychiatry. And we host conversations around the intersection between mental health and sports. Welcome. Okay, we welcome today Foye Oluokun, the newly inked NFL linebacker of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not only is he recently signed, but my man is coming off of being the reigning leading tackler of the NFL. Foye was originally drafted in the 6th round to Atlanta Falcons coming out of the prestigious Yale University. He was sure to rep his hometown of St. Louis and John Burroughs School. You might have heard of one of his high school classmates, Ezekiel Elliot of the Cowboys. Welcome, Foye. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me. Definitely an honor to be here. Talk it up with you guys, chop it up and stuff. So appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So we're really excited to talk today about your process and your journey and everything. Serious athletes, when we get into sports, we all have dreams of getting to that highest level, right? We don't know exactly where it's going to be or where we'll have to, take our exit at some point, but we certainly don't get in it not to continue to compete as we go along. And for you, that's the NFL, right? So right. At some point, the journey and the shot of having a chance in the NFL became a reality. I'd love for you to take us through what that process of like when it certainly became a possibility for you to reach the highest level.
Yeah, it's really kind of my process was kind of weird. Just in high school, I always wanted to play basketball. In college, that's kind of how I always start the story. I wanted to play basketball, and then obviously you mentioned Zeke. He was getting recruited for football. I guess other schools saw me through him, and they were very interested in me too. Well, I don't know about very, but they wanted to check me out further. And our coach at the time was a NFL player, played in the NFL for over 12 years, maybe. Gus Farrat, he was a Pro Bowler at one time. So a lot of the coaches, would talk to him after, not hearing back from me. And the reason they didn't hear back from me is because they would send things in the mail. And my brother, who was 2 years older, used to get letters in the mail from random schools. A lot of these bigger schools, SEC schools, Arizona State type schools, but they're really just like ads to, submit your application here. So my dad would throw those away, but really they were recruiting letters from these colleges trying to get me to junior days and all that stuff. So eventually Coach Farrat hit me up yo, why aren't you responding to these letters, or why aren't you getting back to these coaches? And I said, I didn't get any letters. I don't know what you're talking about. So he kind of took his recruiting under his own wing for me. And then he said, where you want to go? Well, my dad and my mom definitely pushed education on me from, they're Nigerian. So kind of the immigration, immigrant parents, they're very hard on their children, because they want them to succeed in life. So they've been pushing education, and that was their goal, to get their kids to Ivy League schools. My brother had ended up going to WashU, which is a very good school in its own self. In St. Louis, he's probably smarter than me. But then Coach Farrat said, what schools do you want to go to? I said, I want to go to Ivy League. That's all it was. And then so he sent my tape up there. And then within 2 weeks, they got back to me and, kind of had offers from all over the Ivy League, basically every school. Dartmouth offered me last, so I had no chance going there. A little dig on Dartmouth. But as soon as I got there, I chose to play football over basketball, just because the numbers were just way smarter to do that. So it wasn't I chose football because, I love the game more than basketball. No, it's just I felt like I could go farther in football. I wanted to lift and get bigger, more teammates, more connections. There's more opportunity for myself playing football at an Ivy League school than playing basketball, I felt like. And as I got there, I just loved sports so much that freshman year, I played corner. I did well. I ended up being a FCS All-American for freshman team. So that's when our coaches kind of came up to me and said, you keep getting better, keep, pushing yourself, you can have a shot to make the league. Well, the Ivy Leagues don't have as much funding in football and stuff as these other schools, to where, keep getting better and better just by being in the program. You kind of have to work on it yourself. So I would go home, these kids got spring break, some of the kids going, out the country and cool places and stuff with their families. I would go home in St. Louis and just work out and just, try to focus on what I can do. The summers, whether I had to stay up at school and intern or something, that's how I felt like I was making better and better at football for what I thought was better and better at football. And so by the time second year hit, then obviously I went to the third year, things were getting really, I wouldn't say easy for me, but I felt like I was, one of the top players in the Ivy League until I had gotten hurt that third year after a pretty game over Colgate, right? Blocked 2 field goals, had like a pass breakup, did 10 plus tackles. I was like, wow, this year's about to be really easy. I broke my thumb in the middle of the game. I thought it was just a bruise, but I kind of just wrapped it up and then kept playing on it. So I needed surgery. That week, got some surgery, was out another week, and they put a cast on it and stuff. And we had a game after that against Dartmouth. So we had a game against Lehigh. And I said, you know what, coach, I'd rather just go out there and play so I'm not rusty going into Ivy League play. But I made that decision on a Thursday. But I hadn't really practiced with my club and stuff yet. So I went out, Lehigh, I think second play of the game, I blitzed up the edge, tried to tackle the quarterback. It ended up just whacking him in the chest/neck area and tried to make the tackle. He kind of ran through my arm tackle because I couldn't grab him. And then ended up popping my shoulder to where my pec had snapped, and I was out for the year. And that kind of sucked because, I was just thinking like, I had usually I like set plans, like now it's just a lot of unknown. And my coach did a good job of coming up to me after the game and saying, it could be a good thing. We'll just get you redshirted this semester or this year. You injured yourself early enough in the year. We can just scratch the year and you'll have an extra year to play. So I said, yeah, that's cool. But as the season went on, I already signed that, redshirt paper. One of my high school coaches back home said, why don't you think about transferring to like a bigger school? Like, you're a pretty good player. I was like, I didn't think of that. Well, it's already too late. I already said, redshirt this year, we're scratching it. And I wasn't going to come back next semester for school. That's how the Ivy Leagues do redshirt. But I didn't really think about grad transferring, but, ended up being a blessing because, you grad transfer somewhere, you got to reprove yourself to coaches. You don't know the defensive scheme. Like, it's a lot of unknowns that I don't like going into that. I got to keep, playing Ivy League where I knew I was going to play. And then eventually I got to show that I was, pretty dominant over these other athletes, which ended up giving me good film. So it got better. We had the worst year of my career. The season I got back, which would have been awful if, I was trying to use that film to transfer to a bigger school, because I think we went 3-7. We ended up being Harvard at the end of the year, but like as a whole, the year was just, awful. I tried to play. They tried to move me to linebacker from safety that year, but our safety ended up getting hurt. So I went back to play safety, probably too heavy. And then, our team the pieces just didn't fit as well as we thought they would. But, that's God's grace that I got hurt, because I got to come back another year to where I said, I got actually 3 credits left. If I just got 2 seminars or 1 class, just 3, where I usually take 4 or 5 classes this semester. I'm taking 3. I'm just going to, the social aspects of Yale, I've already seen it. All my best friends are graduating. I'm just going to focus on football. I'm going to focus on school to where I can just, completely be all in on football enough. So that year is probably the best year I had, not statistics wise, but just like athlete dominant wise. I focused on, my training, my eating, my sleeping was better. I hydrated more with water instead of Sprite. I really just became a better athlete there, and it was the film that I needed in order to put myself at least on the map as well as I could. And then eventually I had to go out to after that year it ended, I basically graduated. So I had the whole spring semester, what would have been a spring semester, off to myself. And I thought I was going to intern, to be honest, to stay around Yale just in case, the NFL thing didn't work out. And that's when my high school coach, Gus Faride, had called me again. He said, if you really want to make the NFL, I think you have a chance. I was like, that's a lot of thank you. I appreciate that coming from a guy who's played that long. It's like, I think you're a great athlete. Send me over your film. He saw it. So I'm going to send this to this trainer out there in Colorado. He trained Christian McCaffrey ever since he was little. That's how he became the guy, the athlete he was today. I said, all right, like, I don't know who he's talking about, but here you go. So
Yeah.
Like,
that's good enough to fight off for me, right?
He's pointing out all these things that he thinks are great. He's like, oh, this trainer's going to love you. I said, well, that's cool. Thank you. So he sends it over, and then the trainer calls me and said, hey, you got to come out here because I think I can, optimize your chances into making it. And this isn't like me trying to get money off of you. Like, we will charge you, but I just think that, our classes are full, but I'm taking you in because, you have a good chance. Like I'm helping him, he's helping me at
Right.
the same time.
Right.
So I get there, I leave Yale kind of within the next week. I just leave Yale, like pack up all my shit and stuff, and just I think I do drive. I might have left my stuff with somebody at that point. And then I eventually get to St. Louis, drive out to Colorado for the first time. And then I didn't have no money to like pay for housing. So one of my high school or little league coaches knew a family out here who I actually stay with every time I'm here. I'm here in their basement right now. They let me stay in their basement. Got to be great, relationship with them. And they basically helped me out a lot to where I could just, it's right next to the facility that I train at basically. And I just go over there. I had nothing else to do here but like train and get better, and then come home and eat and sleep, and then go back, train, get better. So my numbers when I got there to where I ended were just like a phenomenal, I wouldn't say a big change, but they just kept getting better to where I peaked at the right time. I had the whole science down. I ran my 40 spectacularly, and everything was it's like putting on a show at our pro day that we had for me. So, I had a lot of respect for everybody who helped me out in the process, and I always pay it back to them. So, but basically the name of the game from the time I committed for football to the time I left Colorado was just like, I'm just trying to get better. Like it wasn't no big, people told me I had chances. I didn't even know if I had chances. I saw a guy named Tyler Varga 2 years before me, before I graduated. I thought he was the best running back I ever played against. I told Zeke that early in my Yale career. Zeke laughed at me and said, "No, this guy, I would tackle you. I would not tackle this guy." And I see him in practice every day. He didn't get drafted, probably because he had like a foot injury or something along the way that he didn't run his 40 at his pro day, but he didn't get drafted. So, I'm thinking here like, damn, like this guy, I thought he was the best person I've seen in person ever. And here he is not getting drafted. Like the NFL guy just must be, out this world, like way better than I am. And so I see Zeke get drafted at 4 overall. I was running. I was so mad. I had to go do a group project for econometrics, which a class I did not understand what was going on, but it was a group project. So I showed my face over there. And literally as I'm running to the library, that's when he gets drafted. Like I just feel my phone keep buzzing. I don't even go to the library to study. So I'm already mad. And then I missed him actually get drafted. So I'm mad. But it was really that point. That was during the I was in a sling and stuff. Like I just missed the year of football. Like that was the point that I was like, if he can get drafted like 4th overall and become this superstar, then there's no reason that I couldn't have a shot in the league. And then, double down on coaches saying that, the trainer saying that, my high school coach who played in the league saying that. Like it just became my goals. Like I like sports too much. Obviously I was econ major. I didn't know what was going on in econometrics. Like I'm not the best in the world at econ. I can be one of the best in the world at football. And that's what I think Yale is about, which I wish they would give more money to athletics there. But I think it's, finding your genius, finding what you're better at than everybody else and perfecting it. And for me, I'm better at football. I'm better at sports than most people in the world. So, that's what I wanted to take into my profession. But it wasn't no like, my goal when I was little was like make the NBA. I wasn't gonna make the NBA. Now it's just like keep getting better at what I love, and that's football. And it just happened to be that I made it to the NFL. So once I got to the NFL, it's like if I don't keep getting better, I'm gonna get cut because I was a 6th round pick. People told me that's basically the same as being a free agent drafted that late. Like they have a little bit of hope for you, but it's really no guarantees there. And I knew that if I didn't perform well, I wouldn't be in the league. So whatever I had to do, the first year I played special teams, played my ass off on special teams, do whatever for the team. Second year, I'm trying to become a better and better linebacker. Third year, finally got my opportunity to start. And that's 2 years, like just playing special teams. I got to start sometimes with injuries and stuff. So people saw that I could play. But if I played the way I played my first 2 years, my third year, I'm not going to set myself up the way I am now. So I really wrote on my mirror. I write my goals. I don't write like number goals on the mirror, like stats goals. I wrote on the mirror, I said, special teams player or 10 million plus. Now it's in my third year in the league. I said special teams or 10 million plus. I think 10 million was a lofty goal, but it was a goal of mine. Like what kind of player do I want to be? Do I want to be a well-respected NFL player, or do I want to be a guy who just, gets on teams and then, has to switch teams every other year? Like, And I know a lot of guys like that we have the same personalities, me and those like kind of the special teams guys, because we all came from the same place. But it's the effort, the work ethic that I feel like I put in that made me into that, 10, now it is really $10 million plus a year. And I'll never forget this, me being the special teams guy, 'cause that's who I am. Just I worked into that mold, that group that gets to get that amount of money. But I put so many things on that mirror. I said, got to create turnovers, got to get tackled, got to become a leader, got to do this. And every morning when I wake up brushing my teeth, I would see that stuff. And even if I was tired, like sometimes I'm like, it's so stupid I put this on the mirror, but like it worked every time. Anything I put on the mirror comes into fruition. So
there's a couple of themes that come out of your story that I feel like student athletes can really appreciate. One is focus and the other is sacrifice. I wonder if you could tell us more about what that is like, trying to balance schoolwork and football, going to one of the best colleges in the country, but also, again, trying to keep your football dreams alive at the same time.
Yeah, sacrifice really exemplified in that last semester I had without my friends and stuff. First 3 years of Yale, I was good at football. I was good. We were a good team, decent team. But that last year we went 3-7 with all my friends. Like that all season we partied a lot. We were told we were probably like 1 or 2 preseason Ivy. We just thought it would be easy. As I said, I drank a lot of Sprite. It was water. Like I would come in from spring ball. First thing I'd do is just get a cup full of Sprite and drink it. Like really going into that last year where I said, I've made enough social connections and all that, but my best everything, I had a really good semester academically and football wise was when I just said like, I'm only going out to like places that I need to go. Like I've seen enough people. I don't need this partying and shit. Like Yale's a very fun place. People don't realize like how fun it can be. But I just didn't need it. Like I wanted to focus on what would really get me to the next level. And luckily I had 4 years of, drinking and stuff. That's already a college full. So like, why would I need 5? I felt fine not partaking in that type of stuff. But it really like, pushed my game and even my academics to the next level. But one thing I always tell kids like going to Yale and even in high school, I say, why don't you just take care of your academics so that that way you can fully focus on the sport. People are like, what do you mean? Like if I focus on academics, then I don't have no, when you focus on staying on top of your homework, making good grades on tests, like it don't compile in your mind. Like if I'm behind on homework and stuff, I'm thinking about the homework. If I have a bad grade on a test now, I'm like sad. Like it really takes away from your energy that you have things on the field when you're behind off the field. And it could be academics, there could be other things in your life. When part of your energy is like negative on something else out there, you can't put all the positive energy into football, because football is a very tough, taxing sport. People think we just run into stuff, but it's probably the most mental sport that there is out there in terms of what you have to do in split seconds and what you have to do in the expectations that are always put on you. Because if you mess up, like your partner probably going to mess up because you're not in the right place. So there's so much that goes into like the mental aspect of football that if you're not sacrificing off the field, like to be perfect on the field, a lot of times you're just negative in both ways, and you just don't want to be there.
Yeah, and like to that point, like it's really dope to hear you talk about the mental aspect of the game that you can use to kind of, take your physical attributes to this next level. And I wonder, from my perspective, it feels like the what Ivy League players, those who can reach the top, can bring to the table is, just as Roy like brought up, that having to be able to balance all these things, having to have the regimen to handle the rigorousness of classes, and also the rigorousness of D1 athletics.
Right.
And there's a solid amount of Ivy League players in the league. There's yourself, there's JC Treader, there's Jaden Graham, there's Justin Watson. Like there's a number of people who had made it, and while I can't say I know what allowed them to make it to the league, for you personally, what is it that gave you or has enabled you to continue having success? What do you fall back on?
I think Ivy League athletes in general, just if they can make it, have a good shot of having a longevity in the league, just because they know what to do to make them successful. Like let's say just starting in the classroom, I don't think, I didn't get a 36 on my ACT. I got a 30. I got 2 perfect scores and then 2 scores that weren't perfect, but it ended up rounding up to a 30. But that being said, I wasn't the smartest kid on all the classes, but I still went in there making A's and B's. And that's just finding ways to be successful, like finding what you need to do to study, finding what you need to do in order to make the grade. That's what I think Ivy League athletes are good at. So when we can make it to the league and they finally say, all right, you're athletic enough, you'll have the shot. It's like, I'm not the most athletic, I'm not the most gifted, talented here, but I'm going to find a way in order to do what I need to do to stay. I'm going to find a way to be successful. And, every Ivy League player that I meet out here is like, I kind of all have that same mindset. Like, they told us what we're good enough, but they told us we're not the best. So like, how do I find a way to mask myself into being the best? Like I might not, be God-given the best, but we're going to find a way to, be considered one of the better players out there. And that's just big because, that's taking in like, oh, maybe I'm not good at this. I'll, make my way on special teams while I learn how to be good at this. I'll, do this for the team while I learn how to. That's what a lot of guys that come in the league don't understand is that, you're this cool ass college receiver or something, but, in the NFL, everybody is a cool, they're the best at what they did. So now how are you going to either, if you're not that, God-given Josh Gordon, where you can smoke your way off of 3 teams and always come back, like, how are you going to make your impact on the team where you can, stay in the league for a whole bunch of years while you might not play right away at first? That's what I think Ivy League athletes always bring to the table. They're going to find their way into being successful.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you just kind of just took advantage of every opportunity that was in front of you. That's one of the biggest things I think young athletes have to keep in mind. It's just if there's an obstacle, if there's something, in front of you, it's just tackling it with everything that you've got. And it sounds like that's what you did, coming up from the Ivy League and not being heavily, recruited. So what's kind of like how do you prepare yourself mentally when you go into a competition? Do you ever have doubts like, oh, I'm not ready for this type, of player to play against, or I am ready for this? Like, what's kind of your process there?
People hate, especially positive people hate me because I'm the most negative, positive person in the world. Like, negativity really fuels me just because that just I get really, I wouldn't say I get down on myself, but I get really into when people doubt me and I always make up a narrative that oh, I don't think I'm this good. But that makes me work harder. That's been my way since I was little. My dad told me I wasn't smart enough for this or that. He knew I was smart. He made me, we're education until we die, but he used to tell me things. I'd be like, oh, I'm not ready for this, that. That made me study harder for the test. Or, let's say I'm playing against a really good receiver. Oh, he's too good. I'm going to go work on my footwork harder for the next year. Like people try to flush these positive thoughts into my head, but me knowing me, I don't want to be complacent. I don't want to be told I'm good. I want to be told what I need to work on because that makes me work harder. So I have a lot of doubts before the game. I'm sitting there nervous as hell, but eventually because I'm so nervous, I work hard. And then, at the start of the game, I just tell myself, just play the game that I play because I put in all this work and hard and effort that if I just fall back on that, it's just proven time and time and time again since I was little that does the trick. So, yeah, I'm very positive and it's I have a lot of self-confidence, but if you just hear me talk about myself, it just sounds like I'm very negative, but it does cause a lot of stress because that's the stress that helps me elevate myself, but I can get pretty down on myself. Oh, I don't think I'm going to make it. I don't think, but at the end of the day, I do. It's not like I know, but it's what helps me get to where I need to be.
For sure. And how do you kind of, or would you say that that stress motivates you more, or some of the positive things that have happened in your career, leading the league in tackles this past season, signing that big bonus, does that motivate you more, or kind of, the negatives of what you've been through, your experiences? Talk to me more about that.
This is probably the first time in the league that I've been recognized like that, where they finally gave me the contract. So it's probably the most stressful year in sports for me, just because I put all that stress on myself. Even when you're getting a lot of tackles, now you have people saying, oh, you're only getting the tackles because, you're only getting the tackles because your offense isn't ever on the field. You're getting the tackles because, your defense isn't doing well, so you're always on the field. it's like they're not even consistent with their thoughts, but at the same time, it's like that kind of fuels me to say, oh, I'm not doing well enough. I'm not doing well enough. Well, now when I don't know where I'm about to play next year and I don't know the contract is going to come, it's a lot of unknowns that I hate. And it's like, shit, like, what do the coaches think? Like, are the coaches thinking what these guys on the internet are saying? Or, are the coaches, thinking I'm playing well? I don't know. I got to play better. Eventually, one of our defensive coordinators said, you're doing a hell of a job this year. Like, really proud of you. You're going to get everything that you deserve. And I'm like, I don't even know what I deserve because I haven't been told how good I was. So this has been really stressful until, kind of right into free agency where my agent is telling me like, oh, you're going to get this and that. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about because I've heard a whole bunch of different things that aren't that. And, now we're calling up all these teams and they said, you did a really good job. My first question to my Falcons GM at the end of the year was like, what do I need to do better at in order, for you guys to think that I'm a cornerstone of the defense? He said, that's amazing that you asked that. I haven't looked at all the film, but, that's the kind of guy you are. That's the character you are. But really, it's just me like saying, all these people have all these doubts about me. I'm trying to erase them. I'm trying to erase my own doubts about me. I'm trying to find out what I need to do in order to be that $10 million plus guy. And, it all worked out, but it was just a very stressful year just trying to answer unknowns while they were still being unknown.
I hear you say that you thrive off negativity, right? And that's, it's kind of something that's out there. It's memes sometimes. But too much of that self-doubt can lead to imposter syndrome. We have imposter syndrome being where you doubt your own skills as a fear of being exposed as fraudulent, right? Self-doubt could be predictive towards someone's mental health and ultimately can poorly affect your performance. So how do you avoid imposter syndrome? And do you experience imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're talking about because I remember sophomore year, I was still a corner at the time. So we're playing a guy who was in the NFL prospect at Fordham. And I think the second play of the game, he took me deep for 60 yards, toasted me. And then the rest of the game, I couldn't get out my own head saying like, oh, I don't think I'm in. I don't think I'm good enough. Like, and that's an NFL guy. That's where I want to be. And he just really killed me all game. Like they had record-breaking game on us and they just kept on throwing it over the top of us. And so I went home at that game and I didn't know if I wanted to play football anymore. Not that I would ever stop playing, but I was just like, bro, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think, I was really just down on myself for about a week. And I came back to practice eventually during the week and I said, you know what? Two ways it can go. It's probably what started it. I can, keep sucking or I can get better. And it was humbling. It's like, all right, I had all this recognition last year for FCS, this and that, and here comes a real dude, and I'm just not good enough. So there's two ways it can go. I can keep sucking or get better. And anytime I kind of hit those doubts, that's kind of the question I ask. It's like not, oh, you're always going to be in this place. It's like you have the opportunity to get better. Go get better. But I understand for sure that because I've been there where the doubts kind of compile on you and now all of a sudden you just don't think you're good enough. You don't think that you can ever get to the space that you need to be. Like it's kind of a mix. Like I'll come out of that shell a little bit and say, you know what? I said, I'm very confident in myself. I said, you know what? I'm doing really well at the end of the day. I went to Yale. I graduated from Yale. I'm in the NFL. I'm starting now. Like that's already crazy. And then, but there's always another place to go. And that's where it's like, I let the doubts come in. Oh, can you get to that next step? I don't think you're good enough to get it next. Well, go prove them. Like, go prove it wrong. When I don't feel other people saying like, oh, you're not good enough, I'll make it up, like saying like, I need to get better. But I definitely understand that it's a dangerous line that I walk on. You just got to make sure you have enough positive thoughts in there to, be happy pursuing that better aspect of you.
It is a fine line in that there's some aspects of questioning yourself that could be, become positive. Like, all right, if I have whatever self-doubt I have, let me, do whatever work I need to do so I can erase those doubts, able to create like small goals of, if I notice this was wrong and I feel people are doubting these skills, who can I reach out to? Who can I talk to? What trainers, who do I need to bring into my circle to help me improve upon those things? That's making you better overall. So it's awesome to hear that it seems that you're able to do more of that than not, focus in on whatever you see as things that you can elevate, having people in your corner, having the coaches who are talking to you, giving you the feedback that you need. and converting the things that could lead to, in a more negative space, imposter syndrome, also the opportunity for you to ultimately see you accomplishing over the goals, over the boundaries that, saw in the past.
I was going to say, we find ourselves at an interesting point now, right? Because you spent all this time kind of proving the doubters wrong, proving to yourself that you can do it. And now you find yourself being rewarded for where you're at and where they project you go in the future. So what's that like now, kind of having the expectations coming with a big deal?
Like, people ask me my goals in the NFL, and it's never stats and numbers. It's always, just being respected as a good player. And that is definitely like the highest way that you can know. Like, I don't really care that much about the money, to be honest with you, but just people coming up to me and saying that, I'm a good player, I got what I deserved, and this and that. Like, coaches coming up and saying, we want you, but you played too well for us to afford you. And it's just like, wow, that's crazy, because I really could have went to a lot of different teams. My agent had said if I just played worse. And that's crazy. Like, that people really came up and said that I'm a good player. Like, that really just makes me happy. But at the same time, like, after I signed the contract, like, people are like, oh, you overpaid them. Ooh, that's made me so happy to see, because that's all I needed, like, more, reason to keep pushing. And there was definitely a lot of talking, like, why don't you sign my agent and I were talking back and forth, 5-year deal worth over a 3-year deal. There's obviously a lot of upside to a 5-year deal where you get more guaranteed right at the start. But a 3-year deal, if you play well for like 2 of the years, you have another chance to re-up. So you ended up getting more in your 5 years of playing than a 5-year deal if you do the 3-year deal right. But it just gives me more motivation, because I like, just like how in the 4 years, I said, I want to make that next contract look good. The same thing with this 3-year deal. It's like, I want to play well enough to earn another, chance to re-up. That's always betting on myself. That's always, finding that chip on my shoulder. Like, the reason to have that chip on my shoulder, which, some people told me that was a negative thing. I always thought it's just the way to work harder. So it's just a testament to how I work and how I think that, as soon as I got my deal, I just saw, like, the positives, you hear that, but the negatives just scream at me. And then people saying that I was overpaid, I'm not even that good, I didn't do this and that in Atlanta, like, why would you do this? It's just, now I need to work harder to really prove, like, that I earned that deal, like, to meet those expectations, even surpass those expectations, to where I can get another re-up. So that's kind of what I'm working for now, just making sure that I stay respected and even gain more respect around the league.
And if there's a fight to be found, you're going to find it, right?
Oh, yeah. I was actually thinking, like, 2 minutes ago, it just kind of, I have a whole brand. It's called, like, the Ugly Gang. And, people, it's kind of based, I have a story with it. So basically, in college, some people had, I was at lunch, and some of my teammates that were younger than me, they called me over. They were asking for advice from girls. They said, do you get girls? I said, I don't know. I guess I do all right. And eventually they go, yeah, you get girls, but we're just wondering how you do it, because you're ugly. And I was like, whoa, these two guys clearly needing help on girls are calling me ugly. So I went to my dorm, and I looked in the mirror for about 5 minutes. I was supposed to be taking a nap in between class and practice. And I texted my friends, like, you guys were supposed to be there, and now I just got called ugly by these 2 ugly dudes, so I must be ugly. So I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, you know what, I remember the times, or all the times, girls, rejected me, or they chose another teammate over me, or all this and that. But I could see how I could be ugly, but at the same time, like, they're asking me for advice on girls, so it must be working. So it's the same kind of thing. Like, I'll doubt myself, but it's like, I have a confidence in myself that I don't really care. Like, I know what works for me. And so we named ourselves, my friends named ourselves the Ugly Gang after that. And I started a brand, you gotta, so everybody, or there was a song back in the day, it said ugly, the acronym for you gotta love yourself gang. So we just have a whole bunch of slogans on the back. And then the logo is the ugly duckling, which is like, obviously he was told a whole bunch of stuff in his life. But at the end of the day, he was a swan. Even when he was like his ugliest duckling, like, at the end of the day, he was a swan, a beautiful, dope ass bird. So, no matter what they say, no matter how I show up, I know who the I am. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling now.
Go.
Who I am. I know who I am. I know that at the end of the day, like, whatever works for me. And there's a swan in all of us. However they label us on the outside, we know who we really are. But that's really like kind of how I approach life now. It's like a whole bunch of negative thoughts, but I know what I can get to and I know who I can be as a player.
I just know that carry last, you know,
Yeah.
I'm actually curious of like how, I don't want to assume, but folks from Nigerian culture, Nigerian background, you talked about your parents being really adamant about you chasing education. I'm sure that they have come around to, you know, supporting you in the pursuits of what you want, and seeing you, you know, reach the highest of the high with education. Now seeing you reach the highest of the high as far as your professional career and playing. At the times when you do feel any sort of doubts or you're starting to second guess yourself, is there a role, what does your support structure, your family structure play in kind of holding you down, keeping you grounded, keeping you focused on, you know, some of these good qualities, these good motivations that you have in your mind as far as continuing to prove yourself, continuing to show that you're that person?
My dad and my mom, first of all, I just think it's so crazy that, you know, she prays for me every time I come home and every time I leave. She prays for my health and my safety. She prays for my success. And anytime I'm really feeling down, she calls me. And then let's say I say I'm feeling a little bit stressed, she just prays. And I, you know, religion, you can take it for however you want, but just having that, like, when you start believing like, all right, she's praying, so I'm going to be protected. Like, I haven't had any serious injuries in the NFL yet. Obviously, I've had a serious injury in college, but even she prayed that I come back stronger and everything. So when you kind of put your faith into those prayers and stuff, not saying that, you know, it's technically, I've learned how to protect myself with all types of things. So not saying it's God, you know, doing it, but when you really believe that, you know, you're going to be protected and stuff, and have that faith and confidence in it, like, things really can work out for you. And then my dad, he does a good job of keeping me humble, and he's definitely the one that kind of had to flip. First, my mom, and when I was in Little League football, I only played for 2 years. My mom didn't want to me to play because she heard of injuries and stuff. Eventually, she ended up just loving me playing sports, whatever sport it was. My dad, he used to tell me in college that just protecting me, because obviously my brother was smarter. He went the finance route. I was, you know, I did well in school, as I said, but I said I wanted to play football, and he told me that there were no professional athletes in the house, and that's just because, you know, he saw how I love basketball, and then I was pretty good at basketball. But at the end of the day, I'm 6'1.5", playing shooting guard, off guard, and there they are, 6'4", you know, 6'7" now, like dunking, windmill, and all that stuff. I could dunk and stuff, but, you know,
So I got
I
the
wouldn't
fun.
I wasn't gonna make the NBA unless I really put 100 hours of practice a day in. It was only 24 hours a day. So he's over there telling me like, yeah, there's probably no pros, like focused on your school, like making sure getting the good grades and getting to the internships. Just do whatever you need to do in order to put yourself in the best place for after college. Well, when I said I'm going to go out to Denver, you know, he made sure I sat down and said, is this really what I want to do? But as soon as I left, he, you know, said, if this is what you want to do, he just wants me to be successful. So he put all his, you know, positivity into the football. So that was just so happy for me to see that any path I chose, I think he did learn from my brother, because at first he wanted my brother to be pre-med, you know how that goes, and then that didn't work out. But as soon as he became finance and he started doing really well, he was happy. So if I was to do really well in football, he's going to be happy. So that was really the only goal for him. So if I chose that path, just, you know, make sure I'm the most positive, make sure that I do the best that I can. And obviously he told me when, as soon as I left for Denver, he said, no, maybe as soon as I left for Atlanta, after I got drafted, he said, you know, I know nobody knows you now, but if you just do what you need, you're going to earn that respect that you're always after. And he said, I actually have it tattooed on my back. You don't even know about my tattoos for real. He said, your name shall be heard. Not even like to be famous or nothing, just your name shall be heard. Just the Oluokun name. Like, that's always been our thing. Like, he came over here whenever, the 80s, as an immigrant on his own, then eventually brought my mom over, and everything was, you know, geared for my brother and I's success. And in order for us to be where we are today, my brother doing really well, just graduated in business school at U Chicago Booth, and he got an offer in St. Louis, and then me finally signing my second deal here is just that a testament to us as the Oluokun, like really on the Oluokun family that I have here. I think there's some others around the country somewhere, but that really directly related to us, it's only 4 of us here. And, we're just trying to start us up, from the ground up. And he said, your name shall be heard, saying that I'm going to be successful in whatever field that I do. So it's just that positivity, that support that really just ushers me forward, saying like, I have no chance to fail. Like, I'm not going to fail them because they've done everything that they could to get us to this point, which was like, they were low and now we're at 0. And that's all we needed, was just to have an even playing field. And then once we got that, sky was the limit.
Yeah, and appreciate the tattoo reveal on camera. Hopefully Dad gets a chance before these are released.
That out.
You've given us a lot of gems. If you had to kind of summarize some advice you would have for folks who want to be in your position, who are coming up, what would you say to them?
People coming up in my position, I say, for an athlete, be coachable. Especially from a coach that you trust. Like, listen, really, because they'll give you the answers to the test, and it's really on you to use them. Obviously, there's always a chance to get better, but when coaches say you need to step left and you decide to step right, I just don't understand how you think you're going to be successful. If you really trust somebody's opinion on you, and then use that to continue to better yourself, that's really how to keep moving up in the ranks. And then off the field, it's just, I don't ever like to blame people for making stupid mistakes, because obviously I made stupid mistakes too, but it really takes one that gets you caught and gets you down in bad light and stuff. So but you just have to be as smart as you can out there and really understand that, one mistake, that's what I'm saying, could really knock you off your whole path. And then obviously, like I said earlier, we focus your energy on something off the field, it's harder to make it on the field. So be smart and really put yourself around the right people, because if your friends, you kind of average your 5 friends. If your friends are all doing well, you're probably going to be doing well too. Because if you start doing poorly, your friends are going to try you. They're going to say, why aren't you doing well? Like, that's just weird. Like, when I see people that aren't doing well and I see their support group, I see their friends, not doing well too, you're going to think it's okay to not do well. If all my friends are doing pretty well in their respective fields, and if I would start to slack, or if one of my friends starts to slack, we're saying, why would you do that? You need to get your life together. No matter if they want to hear it or not. I mean, as good friends, we're going to say, you need to get your life together. You need to do things better. And just even hearing that from guys that you grew up with, guys that are your peers, the guys that, you've seen at the lowest of lows, now they're up there telling you, you need to do better. Like, you're going to feel like, oh shit, like, what am I doing here? I need to do better. So that's kind of my advice. Surround yourself with the right people, and then be coachable and listen to people.
Yeah, and I would add to that, from the coaching standpoint or the provider standpoint, as we're talking to providers who are going to be treating athletes too, have some grace, right? Try to take all the good and the bad. If you see someone who's putting forth the effort and the focus and the sacrifice, like folks like Foye are, allow them that grace. And if they make a misstep here or there, try to take the sum total of their actions. Well, man, we appreciate you so much for spending your time with us and giving us all the gems. I know we can find you on Sundays, occasional Thursdays and Mondays. Anywhere else you want to make sure people can follow your journey?
I have a website, my name, foyeoluokun.com. I think my agent puts like a whole bunch of interviews and stuff on there. I sell my ugly gang clothes on there, my merch. Then, my Instagram, my Twitter, I don't tweet as much as I used to. I used to be ruthless on Twitter, but now I feel like a little bit of people watch it. So I'm not on Twitter as much, but I'm still on there, like retweeting a lot, tweeting a lot. But Foyelicious, which was a joke back in the day when I didn't have social media. Somebody made that my name on their fake social media, so I took it after I started social media. But so Twitter, Foyelicious, and then Instagram is Foyelicious too.
Okay, well, we're happy to have you, and we'll follow you again on our television screens, and we'll see where Foyelicious is tweeting their Instagram from now time to time. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Bless.
Appreciate having you on, man. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to our content today. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues. Also, follow us at Sports Psych ISSP on Twitter and Instagram, or you can find us on Facebook as the International Society for Sports Psychiatry. Are you a medical student, psychiatry resident, fellow in a psychiatry subspecialty fellowship program, or a psychiatrist who has completed a psychiatry residency program interested in learning more about sports psychiatry? Join us and become a member of the ISSP. We have a free open source certificate of additional training in sports psychiatry program. For more information about our certification program, membership, or other inquiries, go to our website at sportspsychiatry.org.